Baik, everybody, all participants, welcome again into our Writing Center seminar this morning. Thank you so much for making your time to attend our seminar this morning. Our seminar this morning is a seminar on how to understand that more is not always better. We will find the elaboration in Andrea's presentation this morning. So we are going to learn how to write sentences more effectively and more concise for the purpose of academic writing. We are going to start in 1 minute when Andrea starts her presentation. We might expect you to be involved in our presentation by giving examples, answering questions, and we will make it as casual as possible. And we will have this seminar as a more interactive form so that we can discuss issues that we have as a writer to try to write more effectively, more concisely for academic writing purposes. Everyone, now we will listen to the presentation from Andrea. More is not better.
All right, Ibu Yusnita, are we ready?
We are ready, thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And all right, so it's just an honor to be with everyone this morning. Sometimes I will slip up and it's night where I am right now in the United States, so I know it's your morning. But if I say something about night, you'll know why, just because I get confused. But I have been fortunate to be working with UM and helping create a writing center over the past year, an academic writing center. And beyond helping students, faculty, any author one-on-one, we also offer events such as this to help improve anyone's writing. So, as Ibu Yusnita described, this one is around more practical tips for effective writing. And I did write more is not better, but sometimes more does fit the case, but in general, there's usually a way we can make something more concise. So more is not usually better, would probably be a more precise title. So we're going to be working on developing our clear and concise writing skills. And what we'll be doing is really trying to express ideas or a thought in the fewest academic words possible. So in today's session, we're going to work on the sentence level, and in a future session, we will expand that into more paragraph, section level, and so forth. So I just want you to know that you're going to have a chance to practice, and because we have a small group this morning, like Yusnita said, you're going to have a chance to actually share your responses. Remember, it's writing, so there's absolutely no right or wrong answer. It's just sometimes there's better options, and I'm going to help identify those. So I expect this presentation to take about 45 minutes, but that's give or take, and so that's why I said approximately. After introducing some concepts, I'm going to walk us through specific strategies that I suggest for improving our writing. One is using more specific and exact vocabulary, making sure we're not using unnecessary words, looking at the verb forms that we're using, and I'll offer a few other tips and resources. And of course, we'll have time for Q&A. But we can accommodate some Q&A during the session because of the small number of participants, which actually makes it nice. We can make this more into a workshop if you have questions. So you can just indicate that, and Yusnita will be monitoring the chat box for us. So let's get started. All right, visual, right? What happens to the reader when we don't write concisely? All right, one reader has a headache. One reader looks bored, right? Because they're trying to read through a long paragraph that's not written concisely. So we want to avoid turning our readers into these individuals. We want to keep them engaged and active in our writing. And one way to do this is our first strategy, using what I call specific and exact vocabulary. And just a reminder that this is a theme that kind of is integrated in all sections of the slides that I'm sharing. So, like I said, you're going to get a chance to practice, so let's get going. And so this, like I said, is examples of specific and exact vocabulary. So I want you to just read this sentence, or I'll read it aloud and just kind of follow along. Because universities in the US are so expensive, many college students take out loans to help them pay for college. All right, so the sentence isn't bad, but it does have some non-specific vocabulary. All right, so let's go and see what we can identify. I've highlighted the last part, loans to help them pay for college. I'd like you to just think in your head for a moment of what could you replace that phrase with that might be more specific? Okay, so you're thinking, and I'm suggesting that that whole phrase could be substituted with just the two words student loans, because that's what loans are to students to help pay for college, right? So therefore, we have a nice clean sentence. Because universities in the US are so expensive, many college students take out student loans. So that's just a visual exercise of what I mean about trying to be more specific in our writing. So let me share another example, and this time you'll have a chance to give me some feedback. It's hard to afford college because the money that students pay for school increases every year. All right, so there's two phrases that can be substituted with more exact vocabulary. Does anyone see one opportunity?
Can we invite the participants to jump in and
Yeah. Anybody wanted to speak up or write something in the chat box? How would you improve this sentence?
Yeah, you are welcome to join the discussion by speaking up, everyone, or by putting your answer in the chat box. Thank you.
And I know sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable in small groups to this, but I'm going to continue on, and I know we'll have some brave participants as we go. So I identified two places where I thought there was not specific and exact vocabulary. The money that students pay for school, and it increases in the phrase every year. So thinking, let's take the easy one. Every year, is there a different, more academic word we could use? Any ideas? We have school fee and tuition for ideas here. Great, okay. And so let's go to number 3 and see what I suggested. Let's see here. Yes, I agree. Tuition is exactly what money is that students pay for school, right? And every year is annually. So look at all of the words that we were able to cut from that sentence, make it more specific, and it's maybe 2/3 the length of the original sentence in number 1. So I just encourage you when you're reviewing your writing to look for these opportunities, because especially in our initial drafts, we often will just write whatever we're thinking, right? And then miss those opportunities to clean it up in a future draft. All right, so we also want to make sure that when we're going through this type of revisions and enhancing our writing, that we're looking for opportunities to improve the academic tone. So what I mean by this, here's an example. The researchers got their results from a year-long study. All right. When I see this word got or get, it always catches my eye because it's not academic. All right. I'm going to offer, to get us started, I would suggest something along this line: obtained, received, acquired, or derived. All right, sounds much more academic. And therefore, our revised sentence is: the researchers derived their results from a year-long study. I like it, right? All right. But sometimes we don't really know what to replace a word that is non-academic. What are our options? So again, when I see the word very in someone's writing, it always is a flag for me because very doesn't belong in an academic article. The researcher's argument is very interesting. That isn't precise, specific, or very, really don't know why it's very interesting. But let's say you want to just go and look up, I often go to the Merriam-Webster thesaurus, like here, put in the word very, and look at all those synonyms that you have to choose from. Of course, not all of these are going to fit the context, so you still have to be deliberate and look for options that work. But in this case, I picked extremely, especially, significantly, because I thought that fit the context of the researcher's argument. And therefore, the sentence would be something like, the researcher's argument is extremely powerful because, and then I would support why I'm saying that, okay? So I'm going to share more adverbs a bit later, but I wanted to just bring this to your attention early in what we're working on, just to get you thinking about what kind of words are you using that may not be that academic. And maybe you could just make a little list, keep them on the side on the paper, and we'll have a chance to share what those might be here in a bit. All right. So another strategy is making sure that we're not using unnecessary words. So unnecessary words, maybe words with the same meaning, okay? Maybe like a twin word. So what words or words do you see in this example that have the same meaning? University students pay thousands of dollars for their classes or courses. And again, someone can speak up or put in the chat box. What are the unnecessary or the two words that are like twin words?
Silakan Bapak Ibu, you can speak up or you might like to put your ideas in the chat box. Ibu Titis put classes or courses.
Exactly, right? Let's see. There we go, classes or courses. And this habit of writing like this is very, very common. We often do it. We don't even realize that we're doing it. And sometimes we think, oh, that sounds smart to add, two options here, but really we're repeating them ourselves. And it's a good thing to look for in your writing. Where have you basically duplicated or you're not adding any value to your sentence, you're just making it longer. Here's another example. Each and every student should think about how they're going to pay for school. Do you see the twin words?
We have an entry in the chat box, each and every.
Yay, yes, of course, each and every. And how common is this statement, right? And remember, we're talking about academic writing. In our conversations, it's okay to say each and every course or classes, but in academic writing, it's not okay to use unnecessary words, all right? It just makes our writing a bit tangled, sloppy, that type of thing. All right, going on to another strategy. And this one, I'm going to give you some time to think about it because often we will start sentences as there are, there is. And in this case, my example is, there are many issues that students face at university. So I'd really like to see someone's revised sentence that does not use there are. What do you think? Or you can just tell us. Don't have to write it.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
if we just say many issues that students face at the university, just omitting there are something like that? Or is it correct or not?
It's close. Yeah, thank you so much for the contribution. I
Okay.
would, you're right. We want to get rid of there are. So
Oh,
I
I
just
see.
flipped it. Yeah, students face many issues at university. So, so we often will look at, what noun are we really referring to and move it closer to the beginning of the sentence in order to avoid there are and there is. So let's try it again with there is a development project in Ukraine that the United Nations supports.
May I try again?
Please.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Ibu Titis.
The United Nations supports development project in Ukraine. Is that correct?
Exactly. You have exactly what I had. And of course, there's other options, but these are most straightforward and eliminates adding unnecessary vocabulary. So thank you. Thanks for your participation there. So again, Make sure you're checking your own writing for your use of there is, there are, all right? So all these tips are things that you can do in your editing of your own work. And I will summarize all these in one page later in the presentation. But there's other things that can weaken your writing, and we want to avoid these and be aware of the situation. And I basically am calling these the whole category of adverbs, which we touched on earlier. So, do any of you use these examples in your writing? Literally, basically, completely, really, so, a lot, very, some, just. It's really easy to let these adverbs slip into our writing. It happens without us even realizing it. Because we often use them in our conversations, and sometimes we will write like we speak. But we want to be careful about the use of these words because they really just don't add much to your writing. So here's an example. Applying for financial aid is really not so difficult. Basically, you need to visit the financial aid office and complete the forms. So, do you spot the 3 unnecessary adverbs in that sentence?
Anyone would like to jump in or write in the chat box?
Maybe really and also so. The word, yeah, really and so and just that.
Okay, there's just one more. You almost got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Basically. So we can read the sentence without these 3 words and we still have a concise meaning. Applying for financial aid is not difficult. You need to visit the financial aid office and complete the forms. We might need a connector or a semicolon there, but we don't really need, see, I just said really need. We don't need really, so, and basically. So it's important that you watch for this habit in your own writing. And one way, to read out loud is really a good technique to catch these types of words. And because when we read them, we might just skip over them because we know they're in our minds, they don't really need any brain work. They're just filler words. So read aloud to catch these words. All right. Now I want to spend some time practicing on more academic word choices. So let's go through, well, I'll let you read each of these sentences and I'm just gonna be quiet and let you come up with your choices and then we'll go through them together, okay?
You can read first and try to find the more effective way to say these sentences, and then you can speak up or put your answers in the chat box. Thank you.
All right, so let's start with crash test dummies are really important or an integral part of automotive crash tests. What expression do you think is more suitable for an academic paper? Any ideas? No ideas? So, just a reminder, in the last slide where we talked about unnecessary words, adverbs, really was one of those examples, right? So that's a clue.
We have answer in the chat box, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay, great. What's the answer?
So Dadang Zakaria answered, crash test dummies are an integral part of automotive crash tests.
Great. And I'm sorry, I didn't see that. That's great. And I was just explaining that that would be the best choice because really important is using an unnecessary adverb. Plus, important is a bit vague, right? But an integral is much more specific. So that is definitely the best word choice there. So thanks for that. Oops, I didn't want to go back.
And Dadang also answered for the second one. He thinks that considerable is more appropriate for this.
And would the participant like to explain it to us, how they chose considerable?
Dadang Zakaria, could you please justify your answer here? You can join us.
Because like when we say a lot of, it is appropriate for speaking probably, but for writing, it is better to use a considerable, I think.
And I agree with you. A lot of is very non-specific and something that should just remain in our conversational language. There has been a considerable interest in how background sounds such as music affect an individual's ability to concentrate. So considerable definitely is an academic word that gives that a nice academic tone. So good job. How about number 3? We obtained robust or nice results using structural bamboo rather than timber.
Dadang also has an answer for that, which is robust, he thinks.
Robust. Okay, so tell me what's wrong with nice. Why didn't you choose nice?
Dadang, do you want to elaborate for us? Thank you.
Actually, I don't know, but when we use nice in academic writing, it seems like informal for me.
Lalu itu tentang apa? Aku nggak ikut itu.
So because of that, I rather to say robust than nice, because I think nice is like informal for me in academic writing.
I like your answer. Yes, nice it's very non-specific. What's nice for me may not be nice for you. Everybody has a different interpretation of nice, and definitely not an academic word selection, but robust. I like it. I use it quite a bit. It's one of my favorite words. Maybe that's why I stuck that example in here. But yes, we obtained robust results using structural bamboo rather than timber. So there's their answers in case anyone, I know we just had some participants join us, and you'll have access to these slides as well, and there will also be a recording if anyone wants to watch anything they might have missed. All right, so now I'm going to step it up because here I gave you a choice, and there were somewhat obvious between non-academic and academic. But now I have 3 examples, and I would like you to use to identify what you would replace the italicized phrase with. So for example, the competition faced by U.S. growers from imports of fresh vegetables has gotten more intense. So I want you to share your ideas of how you would replace gotten more intense with an academic word or phrase. So again, please work on all 3, and then we'll regroup and share our results. Any questions?
Oh, we did have a question to, I don't know if it's relevant if we discuss it right now, because the question is a little bit different than our discussion.
Do you want to save it then till we get to the end?
Yeah, we can save it to the end.
Okay.
Of the...
Just don't let me forget. Okay, good.
We have answered to this one from Humaira Faiza. Humaira, do you want to jump in and talk to us about your answer here? Was it from the previous one or from this one?
This one, the example number 1.
Okay, tell us.
The competition faced by U.S. growers from imports of fresh vegetable has gotten more intense, replaced by obtained more intense. Gotten, I think it is not really appropriate for academic writing, maybe. Just my opinion.
So can you just share what would you replace it with? I just didn't catch what you said.
She said, yeah, Ibu Humaira, silakan.
Gotten replaced by obtained.
Oh, okay. So obtained more, has obtained more intense?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So any other ideas? How about the second one? Many urban areas do not have enough land to build new public schools. What could you use to replace do not have enough?
Anybody, if you have an idea, you can jump in or put it in the chat box.
All right, I'm going to go to 3. We can come back to 2 if someone has a suggestion.
Oh, somebody did have a suggestion. Ibu Siti Khalija says, how about insufficient?
Okay. Insufficient. Many urban areas do not have sufficient land to build new public schools, something like that? Do not have, okay, sufficient, good. And number 3, allergic reactions to local dental anesthesia do not happen very often. Do not happen very often. How would you improve that phrase, and if you had this in your paper?
Do not happen very often, everyone.
We definitely got more challenging, right, from choosing between academic and non-academic, but these examples are more realistic about how we write and how we can improve it.
However, we have one answer from Dadang. He said his alternative is allergic reactions to local dental anesthesia rarely happen.
Rarely happen. Okay.
And another
So-
one from Indri
Yeah.
Astuti, she said rarely exist. And
Okay.
then also from Anissa, to change happen into occur.
Okay, do not occur very often. All three of those are improvements for sure over do not happen. So that's great. Let me look and see what I'm suggesting. So number one, where we had obtained, was a suggested answer. I didn't identify obtained. I thought maybe intensified or heightened. So the competition faced by U.S. growers from imports of fresh vegetables has intensified or has heightened. So I was able to get rid of gotten more intense 3 words. I replaced it with 1 word. The suggested from the participant was obtained. So the competition faced by U.S. growers from the imports of fresh vegetables I don't see how to use obtained there clearly. So therefore, I suggest something more along the lines of intensified or heightened. But all right, let's look at the second one. Yes, I agreed with the participant, have insufficient. Another option is lack. Many urban areas lack land to build new public schools. Very clear, 4 letters. So that's another good option. And in our third one about allergic reactions, I wrote that they are rare, which is very similar to rarely happen, or you could also say they're infrequent. The suggestion about do not occur very often is okay, but it's not, it's kind of like a medium improvement. I think the rare or infrequent is a more complete improvement. Rarely happen, we talked about, rarely exist. Allergic reactions to that would be acceptable too, right? Yeah, rarely exist, rarely happen. So good job. Good job. All right. So I'm going to move on, I think, to more practice here. First I want to do a strategy. So I'm pointing out different things for you to look at or look for in your writing. And we do want to look out for the TION or shin words, right? Instead, we want to use more action verbs. So I would avoid this. The report provided an explanation for the unusual results. All right, it's a little wordy, it's a little clumsy. How would you improve this sentence without using the word explanation?
We have one answer in the chat box, Andrea.
Okay.
Ibu Siti Holly just say, how about highlight?
Highlight.
Highlight.
Oh, like maybe the report highlights the unusual results, something like that.
Maybe
Perhaps?
what's that she means.
Okay, okay. And
Ibu Holija, you want to jump in and tell us your answer?
Thank you for the chance. I would like to change this sentence into the report highlight or revealed for the unsatisfying result.
Okay, okay. So you really did have a kind of a more complete improvement. I like it. Here's another alternative, if I can get to. I just changed the explanation to the report explained the unusual results. So I was just looking for, from my perspective, provided an explanation for, it seemed kind of wordy and long to me. So I was looking for a way to make it more concise. So I just used a different form of the verb. The report explained the unusual results. But I think your sentence that you shared has potential as well. I do. Let's look again here. The student made an objection about her final grade. How could we make that more action-oriented?
Somebody, Ibu Indriastuti said that she can use objected.
Okay, so the student objected, something like that?
Ibu Indriastuti, you want to tell us about it?
Yes, I think this one is only the student objected her final grade.
I like it. And I think, yep, that's almost like exactly what I have. The student objected to her final grade. If we're using the same model, of course, there's many ways that we can write, but this is a quick way to make a long, clunky sentence much more concise and action-oriented. So I just want to make sure you're walking away with the tip that look for these words that we use in our writing. Sometimes we need them, obviously, and not every TION word should be replaced. I'm not advocating that. But if we've used it in a passive way that can be easily changed and still retain the same meaning, then please consider that. All right. I really appreciate how you guys are involved and giving it a try. So now I've got some more practice opportunities. So we're going just to have general practice about trying to avoid being wordy. So I've got two sad examples on the left. We're going to start with the top one. And our objective is to create a happy sentence with that's not wordy. So think about this. It may be difficult to make a decision about the method that should be used. How could you, as an academic writer, make this more concise?
If you have any idea to make this statement less wordy, you're welcome to join us, speak up, or put your answer in the chat.
So I know it's a bit hard to write on the spot. And in some cases, it may look like the sentence is okay the way it is, right? It may be difficult to make a decision about the method that should be used. It's so true, right? Oh, do we have a suggestion, Yusmita?
We do have one suggestion. To make decision can be changed into to decide.
Okay, okay. So let's just look and see what I've suggested. Choosing the proper method may be difficult. All right.
Yeah.
So I took what was almost 3 sentences, right, or 3 lines, and made it into 2. And I took out a lot of the little words. It may be, right? That should be. So when I'm looking for opportunities to make something more concise and specific, I look for those little function words that we use, and they truly have a function, and we need them, but we often use too many in our sentences. So look for those opportunities as well. All right. And also just the tone, it may be difficult to, it's very passive. It's very like, it may be, it may not be. But here on the right, choosing the proper method may be difficult. It's much more action oriented. And I bring the focus into what is the important part about this sentence? It's choosing the method. Okay. This next one is a challenge. I think you're up for it though. Let's see if I can. Yusnita, can you read that for me? My bar is across it and I can't quite see it. Could you read it aloud for me?
There are some inorganic materials that can be used in tissue engineering by bioengineers in the process of tissue engineering that have been shown to be very promising. Is that the one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
it's very wordy, and there's repetition here, I guess. it's like tongue twister to be read, really.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle. And we often will write this way because sometimes it's the way we think, but it confuses the reader. So I'm going to be quiet for a moment and let you think about how this could be improved.
Yeah, can I try?
Please.
Yes, please.
Yeah, in my opinion, perhaps this one is still possible, yeah? Tissue engineering process can use some inorganic materials that have been shown to be very, what is the last? Yeah, to be very promising.
Okay, I like the improvement. You were able to make it more concise there, right? Let's see what I've suggested. Oh, some inorganic materials have shown great promise in tissue engineering. So close to what you're suggesting, right? So we really don't need all of that verbiage about the bioengineers, right, in their process. And what's key, we're talking about inorganic materials, right? We're talking about tissue engineering, and that some developments are promising. Those are the 3 key points. All the rest is distracting.
Very interesting. Yeah. Because we do have 2 other versions in the chat, Andrea.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah.
The first version is bioengineers can use some promising inorganic materials in tissue engineering.
Okay.
And then another version is some inorganic materials can be used in tissue engineering by bioengineers, which are very promising.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting versions as well.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's on the right track, right? And as I've said earlier, that there's not a right or a wrong answer. Just because I've shared my example doesn't make it the best answer. But I am trying to demonstrate how we can take something that's muddled, like this sentence, and turn it into something fairly short and concise by really thinking about what is truly necessary in our writing. That's the lesson here, what's truly necessary. And for the reader, the one on the right in the blue smiley face, some organic materials, it's so much easier to digest, right, than the sad one. And so we just want to keep our readers happy too when we write clearly. But yeah, I like you guys are making good progress, and your suggestions show that you're able to identify some of that unnecessary language. So, all right. Let's see here. So I was speaking of verbs, right? And I want to make sure that we don't leave this seminar without talking about phrasal verbs. Here's some examples. There are many phrasal verbs. But just to kind of ring a bell in our head, I'm talking about put up with, get rid of, act up, all of those types of phrasal verbs. Again, we use those in our day-to-day casual conversations, but we don't write with them, okay? Anytime you see a phrasal verb in your writing, think about, is that the best word choice? Is there something that would be more acceptable? In most cases, yes. In some cases, maybe from a whatever field that you're in, there may be some acceptable phrasal verbs. So this is not an absolute that you never use phrasal verbs, but be careful, okay? Be just very careful. So we try to avoid them in academic writing. So I'm going to give you some more practice. What I want you to do, there's 4 sentences, and I've underlined phrasal verbs, but I've given you some choices on the right. Of course, I gave you too many choices, so you'll need to pick the right one. Note that you may need to change the tense of the verb to fit the sentence structure. So, for example, number 1, many software manufacturers in developed countries put up with widespread copyright violations in less developed countries and often even offer local versions of their products. What would you choose from the list to substitute put up with?
This is very interesting because sometimes there is a passion or desire for us to show off our range of English vocabulary by using phrasal verbs. Sometimes we miss an important fact that phrasal verbs is not for academic writing. So it's really very interesting to avoid using phrasal verbs like this in academic writing.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because it does show that you have a handle on the language, but we should save that expertise for our conversations, not for our writing. All right, do we have anyone that wants to suggest an answer to number 1? Ah, sorry, I just showed it to you.
Oh.
Tolerate. I'm suggesting tolerate because from my perspective, it means to put up with something, right? And from my perspective, it was the best choice from those that were provided. Did anyone have anything different? You probably don't even want to tell me now. Let me go back and let's look at number 2. Scientists are looking into innovative drug delivery systems that can transport and deliver a drug precisely and safely to its site of action.
We have some answer popping up in the chat box. We have words like investigate and develop.
Okay, great. Let's try. Scientists are, and I'll just change the verb form, are investigating innovative drug delivery systems. Good. Scientists are, was it develop, Yusnita?
Yeah, develop.
Are
We have 3 develops. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what I've got here. I went with investigating. Because from looking into, from my perspective, is researching it. But it's possible that they could be developing. I just don't know enough about what these scientists are doing. But it could be scientists are developing innovative drug delivery systems. If that's true, if we knew that was true. Good job. I like it. All right. The use of touchscreen voting systems could get rid of many problems associated with traditional paper-based ballots.
We have answers popping up as well here. A lot of people, 3, 4 now eliminate.
Eliminate, okay. Yes, that one's, I think, clear, right? And eliminate is definitely an academic word, and it really improves that sentence, really, doesn't it? As soon as we get rid of those little phrasal verbs. And let's go back to the last one. Yusnita, could you read that for me, please?
The purpose of this paper is to try to figure out what is lacking in our current understanding of corrosion and corrosion protection in concrete.
Ooh,
Answers
okay.
popping up now. 3 people answers determine.
Determine. Yeah, I would agree. The purpose of this paper is to try to determine. Good. So the key here is, you know your academic words, just make sure that you're not using phrasal verbs instead of these types of words. So look for those in your writing. And I have this slide here, but I'm going to leave this with you since we're running low on our time. But this is something that you can practice on your own. I'm going to have you close your eyes for the next slide so you don't see the answers. But this is a little different. Again, they're phrasal verbs, but there's not just one word that would work. There's potentially 2 or 3 words. So this is just a good exercise to sort of stretch your mind, or maybe open up to using different vocabulary with similar meaning. So the phrasal verbs here are come up, showed up, and looked at. All right, so close your eyes just really briefly. Okay, good. So that's your homework if you choose to do it. Like I promised, there's a slide here on all the tips and strategies that we've been practicing. And I would also use this as like a checklist to remind myself what I'm looking for when I'm editing. I'm self-editing, right? Or perhaps you're doing some peer review reading for your colleague, your classmate, that type of thing. And so these are things that you could look out for in their writing as well. Other tips, there's many, many tips, but key ones that I would recommend that we're not talking about specifically this morning is vary your sentence structure, right? We just need to make sure that we're using a variety of sentences that can include length or the connectors that we're using, like I have in number 2, where we're avoiding repetition. Because remember in that one sentence about the bioengineers, that was very repetitive. So you could look for any kind of repetition you have. Be sure that you're not repeating your ideas over and over, but perhaps just using different words, and making sure you're using a variety of transitions. Sometimes I'll read papers and they're pretty well written, yet each transition is however, and however. And so I get a little bothered by the constant however, right? And I kind of lose my focus on the paper and I just start to look for the next however. So make sure you mix those. Number 3, I talked about this during the seminar, making sure that you read your work aloud. And this is absolutely critical. We all do this and need to do this. And number 4 is really the heart of improving your academic writing. We have to read academic writing to become better academic writers. And I know that's not always what people want to hear. Maybe they don't really like to read, they don't have a lot of time. But if you're serious about improving your academic writing, you need to read. These are the sources that I collected the examples from today. So if you found them useful, there's more details at these websites. And of course, the textbook that I use a lot for my seminars, Vice Wales and FEEC. So I took a lot of these examples for books for graduate students. So I just want you to know that if you're not a graduate student and you're participating today, good for you, right? Because you got the right answers. So that brings us to Q&A.
Yes.
And I know you, Snida, you said that there was at least one question in the chat box, right?
At least one question here, yeah. So while the presentation was running, we have a question from Dadang. He was asking if it was better to use active or passive voice in writing.
I don't know if there's one that's better than the other. It really depends on the context. In our academic writing, we do use passive voice at times. And there's certain sections of the research articles that will generally have more passive voice than active voice. We have a checklist that we share with anyone that's interested, that visits the Writing Center or participates in these seminars, that walks you through each section of a research article if you're writing that type of genre, and it addresses the type of voice that is typically used for that section of the research article. So I highly recommend looking through that. Plus, it also gives you a lot of tips on other things to look for in your writing. So we can definitely share what we call the client research article checklist. Okay. What else is on your mind?
Dadang, we hope that answers your question. Otherwise, we can, yeah, he said it answered his question. Otherwise, we can open some opportunities for other participants in case they want to ask any questions while we are discussing how to make effective writing here. Feel free to show your hands or pop your question in the chat box. Following your presentation, Andrea, according to me personally, it's the examples are clear and easy for us to follow, but often as a writer ourselves, when we write, we feel that sometimes we want to see quantity. What I mean is that I want my paragraph to expand in 1 page, for example. So I want to see a lot of words in my writing. So that's why when we actually read over and consider our word choices again, there's actually a lot of opportunities, like you said, to put them into more effective version. So we are continuously on a dilemma between, I need to have this, I need to reach the target number of words, but I also need to write it effectively or concisely. Do you have any tips on this, or which one is actually our priority here?
From my perspective, your priority is to write clearly and concisely. If you're short on the word count, potentially there are ideas in your writing that need further development. Maybe there's examples that you can add or expand the idea or the thought that you're having, add another reference or a contrasting thought to your paragraph. Just try and think beyond the words that you have on the paper. Like, step back and think, what could I add that would make this article more robust, or this essay? What and examples are huge in our writing, because sometimes if someone doesn't quite understand a concept that you're trying to share, if you give an example or you cite a study that supports your thought, it clicks for the reader, right? And you've also added more words. So we really need to make sure that we're adding enough substance to our writing. And so I would just check for, if you're feeling like, well, not feeling, but if you don't have the words that you need, you definitely can add more substance. And if you get to a point where you feel like you've fully developed one particular idea and you're still short on your word count, then I would expand and add a secondary idea and so forth. Of course, they need to be well connected, but does that help?
Yeah, it helps, but sometimes when we write our own draft, our own manuscript, we get too deep into our own writing and we tend to think, this is good already. We can't seem to find what can be wrong about my sentence. I think my sentence is clear already to me. We always think like that, I guess.
Well, I know, and it's hard to step back from something that we invested so much time and energy into and look at it critically. But what I do is I almost always ask a trusted fellow writer to read, someone I know that was going to give me the feedback that I need. They're not going to tell me, oh, Andrea, that's nice, good job. I mean, they might say that, but that's not going to help me, right? And so I work with others that we exchange papers, and that really, really is helpful. The other is a writer, an author can always visit us at the Academic Writing Center too, because we're trained, our tutors are all trained to be a critical reader of your paper, whatever genre it is, and provide that feedback that we all need. So no one is what I say, immune to not being able to correct their own writing, that we need other readers to help guide us, help point things out, tell us that they're confused, tell us that, do you realize this is the third time that you've said this in the last page? You know, those types of things. So.
Yeah, I have that tendency. I tend to repeat myself over and over again.
I do see that, and sometimes it's our nature. It's sort of like using those twin words, like, okay, I know I told you once, but now I'm going to tell you again, just in case you didn't get it the first time. I mean, we don't intentionally write that way, but it happens. So watching what you write after your first draft. So I'm a big advocate for your first draft. Just write everything that you think you need or want. And then all of these things that we've been talking about, these strategies and these peer review and going to a tutor and that type of things, that's after your first draft is completed and you have done your own self-editing. Because a paper needs to be self-edited before it can go on to a second reader. It's not really fair to ask somebody to read my first draft when I know there's improvements to be made, right? But after I've got a second draft, I feel pretty good about it. That's an ideal time to invite another reader.
Thank you so much for elaborate explanation about all this. I mean, experience of writing can be different for everyone, but I guess everyone would agree with me today that we find useful ideas and insights from Andrea's presentation today. Any more questions maybe from participants today? If you are keen on having a copy of this PowerPoint, you can contact us in the Writing Center. We have put up the number of the Writing Center at the chat box, 0851 6303 891 and 0. You can contact us. We will share with you the presentation. Is that
and
okay?
the client checklist, if anyone wants that?
Yeah, we can do that as well.
That's great. And I would just like to ask a question real quick before we leave. So this was our initial practical tip. And of course, we decided to start at the sentence level, but I wanted to just quickly survey the participants to see if there's interest in taking this to the next level, which would be beyond the sentence level to the paragraph, the page, the section level, if that would be helpful. And you may or may not know now, but if maybe you can just do a quick thumbs up or something that indicates if that might be a possibility.
So follow-up discussion on this, everyone. Do you think it will be useful? If you think it will be useful, please put up your thumbs in your screen. Okay, we have a lot of thumbs, Andrea. And actually, Pak Aziz is showing his thumbs. Thank you so much, Pak Aziz.
I agree. Well, I really appreciate the feedback, and I will look forward to working on that. And invite all of you to come back and we can continue learning together.
Yes.
So,
All right. Okay.
so thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone, again for attending our webinar today. As we have agreed, we will be having one session for follow-up on this, on similar topic, more extensive examples, so that we can learn more and more about how actually to actually write our manuscript and how to make effective writing for our drafts. Again, if you keen on having our PowerPoint and research client checklist, please contact us in our WhatsApp group at the Writing Center. The number is 0851-6303-8910. That's available in the chat box. We thank you for attending this seminar today. We wish you a safe and pleasant Lebaran holiday. We will see you again after the Lebaran. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank
Goodbye.
Thank you. Andrea, have a good night.
Thank you. I will. Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Mbak Yunista. Thank you.
Sama-sama Ibu Esa.
Izin live ya Mbak.
Silakan. Terima kasih.